Welcome to the Chelsea Fans Channel. Now, I have some fantastic news for you. A dear friend of mine, a guy called Clayton Beerman, has popped into the studio to talk to us about a book that he's written. Now, Clayton, questionably, has decided to write a book about our worst, certainly for a lot of people watching this, it will be their worst ever season that they've ever experienced as a Chelsea fan. Clayton, you've been going to Chelsea for years now, haven't you?
I have. My first game was in 1967. That wasn't at Chelsea, that was at the place in North London where they wear white. First home game was 1968, but I suppose I started going pretty regularly early 70s.
Right, so over those years you've seen some wonderful seasons, you've seen some glory, you've seen the highest glory, you've reached the zenith of following a club side.
Yeah.
And you've chosen to write a book, Palpable Discord. If you want to get hold of it, it's really good. I can tell you, I read this. I took this book when I went away to Marbella, and the link is in the description below. It's very, very, very funny and really worth reading. But explain, why of all of the seasons, of all of the glorious things that you've witnessed as a Chelsea fan, why have you written about this season?
I think the simple explanation is I didn't set out to write a book about this season. As you know, I blog for the Chelsea Fancast and I also write for CFC UK. And quite a way during the season, I thought to myself, I had quite a good body of material, but I also had other stuff that I wanted to write just generally that I didn't really have a forum for. So about 3/4 of the way through the season, I spoke to Mark Worrell of Gate 17 Publications, a good friend of the channel, I believe. Yeah. And he agreed to have a look at what I collated by the end of the year, and he very kindly agreed to publish it. Right. So you're quite right. There's a whole generation of people who hadn't really experienced what it's like to really be a Chelsea fan.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I remember I did an episode of with Chidge on the podcast, doing sort of midway through last season, and you were probably at your lowest ever ebb. I remember how demoralised you were. You didn't see. A lot of people spin things, don't they? They try and find a light at the end of the tunnel and try and keep it glass half full. You really were at a low point as a Chelsea fan, I felt. Do you think that comes across, or do you think that you managed to spin it?
I think what comes across in the book more than anything else is frustration.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I felt more than anything else. Perhaps I wasn't as low. Perhaps I just got to the point where I'd sort of banging my head against a brick wall, because the title of the book, Palpable Discord, as probably you know and your viewers will know, is the phrase that Mr. Emenalo used at the press conference after Jose was sacked to describe the atmosphere in the dressing room. And I just found the whole thing very frustrating. I think it comes through the book, and one of the things I'm actually pleased about is that the book gives a sense of continuity throughout the season. Yes. So it's like it's the season's unfolding. So I think there's frustration more than anything else. I think there's a general theme of me going, why, why, and why. Yeah. I love Jose, and I always will. And I think I could see what was happening. The writing was on the wall. And perhaps in my writing, and you'll know because you read it, there's a sense of desperation, and I'm getting more and more desperate as the end is coming. And then when it came, I think I was just pretty phlegmatic about it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You mentioned that you'd always love Jose. I completely empathise with that. How do you feel about current events?
I'm not bothered.
Really?
No. I'm not bothered. What he's done for the club is, without question, it's there, and I'll always thank him for that. I know that a lot of people don't like what's happened because he's gone to Manchester United. I think if you step back from it, it's only because he went abroad that the whole him not being with us didn't really affect us as much as it does now. I think he's gonna do what he's gonna do. You know, we've been on that side of the fence for so many years that we're now going to see what everybody else saw.
Yes,
he's going to wind us up and all the rest of it. But I'm really happy about who we've got in charge at the moment.
Yes.
So at the moment, as long as Conte's allowed to do what he's can do and is capable of doing, then I'm a happy man.
Yes, I agree. I think the book takes a very interesting turn when you kind of go back in time a bit. You talk about your first seasons and sort of your first involvement with Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah. when I said before about why I wrote the book about having certain stuff I wanted to write, I didn't really have a forum to publish it. One of the things I've always wanted to do was to write about how I started supporting Chelsea. And it was quite unusual in terms of, I think most people just go to their first games with their dad. And I didn't. My dad's brother was a mad Spurs fan. And sorry about it, you can bleep that out, can't you?
Yeah.
And he used to take me to Spurs, and it was only when I grew up and I was a little bit wiser that I realised that he'd take me to see them play rubbish teams, because I never ever saw Spurs score less than 5 goals.
Right.
They had Greaves and Gilzean, some fantastic Spurs players. But the one game that didn't score 5 goals was my first ever game, and that was a draw. That was a 1-1 draw. So that was my introduction. At the end of that first season in '67 was the cup final between Chelsea and Spurs, and
Cockney Cup final,
the
right?
Cockney Cup final, and all of my family, not my immediate family, but my cousins and what have you, are all Spurs fans. We're all gathered around the table, and we lost, and I cried, and I knew that there was no turning back. I wasn't going to be a Spurs fan. I was a Chelsea fan.
Yeah. It's a very interesting story, actually. Do you know what, guys? Will you do us a favour? Will you comment below? I'm always very interested to hear about how people end up, pledging their life and their allegiance to Chelsea Football Club. Comment below. Let us know what your story is. I always find these really interesting to read.
Yeah, be good.
Do you know what else I thought was very good? I thought that the appraisal of the players was a very interesting thing, and actually, I think you've got it spot on. You know, it's generally the way that newspapers will give an appraisal of players after a match. You did a sort of season appraisal.
Yeah, I did a season appraisal, and it was quite difficult.
Yeah.
I tried to be as honest as possible. I think throughout the book I'd actually commented on how people had been, but and I thought it was a good thing to round off the book, to have a sort of a little highlight section or lowlight section, as the case may be, and then talk about the players.
Yeah, no, it was really good. And do you know what else? The way that the book concludes it's a touching moment. It's a very humbling moment, and I think that it's beautifully written. It's you write an open letter to Jose Mourinho, and it's really important. Get this book, because I'm sure that you will. The majority of you will certainly agree. Clayton writes a beautiful letter, and I think he speaks for the majority of us fans. Clayton, if we want to get hold of the book, like I said, the link is in the description below. But there's also, if you're a match-going fan, it will be on the stall.
If you know where you get the CFC UK magazine, if you know Mark Worrell, it's opposite Fulham Broadway Station, not when you're herded out of the side entrance, but the main entrance, which is opposite the shopping centre. There's a stall there, and there will be hard copies of the book available. Obviously, there won't be any e-copies there. That's a stupid thing to say. Hard copies of the book will be available at the next home game, which is Bristol Rovers, and then again at Burnley. So if you'd like to pick up a copy there, I will sign them, and I may be around as well to say hello.
Nice. And Clayton, you've been kind enough to say that you're going to give one of our viewers today a book.
I have.
There's one here.
Not this one, because this is yours.
No, thank you. I've got one available for you. There's going to be a bit of a quiz question though. So if you get this right, I'm going to go through the comments. If you get this quiz question correct, you could have a free copy, signed copy of this book. Clayton, please deliver the question.
Okay, in 1970, Chelsea won the FA Cup. Peter Osgood did something during that cup run which hasn't been done since. Can you tell Rory what it was?
If you get it right, you could end up with a free copy of the book.
Signed.
Signed. Thank you all so much for watching, and comment below and get that question correct, and a book could be in the post to you. Go on, you Blues.
Ooh. Yes. What's happening, people? My name is Mo Gilligan.